Let's talk about the shoulder. Most of the time we're going to spend talking about the scapula, which is this bone right here, but I want to get us started by considering the muscles that are most intimately associated with the scapula. Those are the muscles of the rotator cuff. You can memorize the muscles of the rotator cuff pretty easily by using the mnemonic SITS, S-I-T-S. That stands for supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and subscapularis. You can remember where they live by breaking SITS down into SIT and then S. So the first three SITS muscles, the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and teres minor, they live on the back of the scapula and attach here to the greater tuberosity. The subscapularis lives here in the subscapular fossa and attaches here to the lesser tuberosity. So let's go ahead and take another look at the scapula. I'm going to go ahead and take the humerus away. So here's our scapula. Let's go ahead and identify some of the things that poke off of the scapula. And you can actually feel these on yourself. I'm going to go ahead and turn the scapula over. So this is the back of the scapula, and this big thing back here, this is the spine of the scapula. You can actually feel this on yourself. If you go ahead and palpate your scapula, the thing that you feel posteriorly sticking off of the scapula, that's the scapular spine. If you run your hand anteriorly and laterally along the scapular spine, eventually you're going to end up touching this structure right here. This is the Acromion process, and you can palpate that on yourself. It's going to be the most lateral part of the scapula and the most superior part of the scapula. This right here is the coracoid process. It projects anteriorly. If you can palpate your clavicle and run your hands along your clavicle distally, if you palpate more inferior to the most distal part of the clavicle, you'll be able to feel this little hook right here. That is the coracoid process. A bunch of muscles attached there, and we're not going to belabor that. Now we're looking straight down the barrel of the glenoid process. This is the glenoid process right here. This is what articulates with the humeral head. You can see that it's relatively flat and shallow, which explains why the shoulder is the most commonly dislocated large joint in the body. Let's go ahead and look at a couple of other features right here. This little thing that pokes off right here, that's the Supraglenoid Tubercle. That is where the long head of the biceps attaches. This is the Infraglenoid Tubercle right here. That is where the long head of the triceps attaches. Now, for a long time I had difficulty remembering that it was the long head and not the short head of the biceps that attached to the Supraglenoid Tubercle. But if you remember that it's the long heads of both the triceps and the biceps that attaches to the scapula, maybe that'll make life a little easier for you. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about one last thing, which is those rotator cuff muscles that I told you about. And I already mentioned them. I said that there were four: the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and subscapularis. Let's talk about where they live. The subscapular fossa, which is right here, that's where the subscapularis muscle lives. The supraspinatus muscle is going to live right here. So remember, this is the scapular spine right here. This is the supraspinatus fossa right here, and that's where the supraspinatus muscle is going to live. This is the infraspinatus fossa right here. That's where the infraspinatus muscle is going to live, and more inferiorly, the teres minor muscle is going to live. So if you look at the glenoid like this, the supraspinatus is going to live here. The infraspinatus muscle is going to live here. The teres minor is going to live below that, and the subscapularis muscle is going to live here in front of the glenoid. Thank you.